IPMNation.com.
Previously on Angry Drunk Tales.
Be angry. Me write angry emails.
Episode 13. Repeated kicks to the head with steel boots.
Me still angry. Me continue to write long, rambling, drunken emails. Me continue to be angry over incident several weeks ago. Me have emotional intelligence of 5-year-old child. Me bitter and frustrated with myself over being drunken 300-pound tub of shit. Me undiagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. Me
shit-faced cockmaster.
Me write angry emails. Me hate everyone.
Welcome to episode 13 of Angry Drunk Tales. I'm Matt Connerton.
And I'm Jen Coffey.
And we have the honor and privilege of being the former roommates of
shit-faced cockmaster.
Oh, what a wonderful time in our lives. So when we left off in the previous episode, of course,
shit-faced cockmaster
had sent one of his long, rambling emails, and you know, we're starting to see the pattern of repetition, as I've mentioned. The phrase at the end of the day starts showing up a lot, and it'll be fun to see what other phrases begin to show up a lot.
Be careful. It's going to turn into a drinking game.
Yeah.
Every time he says one of the key phrases.
Yeah, every time he says at the end of the day, you have to take a drink. That's actually it's very appropriate to have a drinking game for the Angry Drunk Tales.
Especially since we're talking about a belligerent drunk.
Yeah, and especially since if
shit-faced cockmaster
himself listens to these, you know, he's listening while drinking.
This is true.
Because, you know.
Well, you can't get in trouble for that, at least.
What's that? Listening while drinking?
True.
Yeah. I was trying to think of something clever, but so this is my response to the long email from
shit-faced cockmaster
that we left off with in the previous episode, where he says one of the things he says that I address here is you know, because we had made a rule about not knocking on our door after midnight, even if the light's on, because I'm busy. And he responded with defensively, well, then you should have told me, which we did. So I responded to his email with this. I said, we made a rule about not knocking after midnight because Jen is almost always asleep, and you agreed to it, then forgot about it. But we never said anything more because my attitude about it was,
shit-faced cockmaster.
He's a really good guy and genuinely means well, and we happen to be really nice people, so we let it slide. We really enjoyed that we were not only roommates, but becoming good friends as well. I'm a laid-back dude. I don't sweat the small stuff. We weren't making hasty decisions. We had hopes the whole thing had blown over. In fact, when you fixed Jen's computer, it reaffirmed that in our minds. But then we get an email from you announcing plans to find a new place and move out in August. So I guess we were to assume you didn't really mean that. That's the impression I'm getting. But dude, after all the turmoil we went through with
Napoleon Bonaparte,
and now this, I look at that I took that pretty seriously. So is that not really the case now? As for no one checking on you, it was mentioned among the rest of us that you seem to be holed up in your room. If you're mad no one knocked and said anything, you can blame that solely on me. I kept saying to everyone that I've seen you do that before, which I have. I've seen you stay in there for a couple of days with little to no interaction several times since we've lived here, and I've always assumed it was because you were busy working, probably coding, and didn't want any distractions. So I'm sorry if I missed that. So I said that again, taking responsibility. Unlike
Shit-faced cockmaster!
I was willing to take responsibility for my tiny part in this.
As if.
And I'm the guy who, I wasn't even involved in the original conflict, but
Neither of us were.
But I'm playing the role, as I always try to do, as diplomat and peacemaker and whatnot. But it's hard to do that with someone who's insane, like
Shit-faced cockmaster!
and then I wrote a second. I actually followed up with a second email immediately. Maybe I was starting a pattern.
Shit-faced cockmaster!
A little bit. And then so in the sexy email I said, and by the way, please try to understand, dude, while all of this was going on, we've always been dealing with Jen's situation. It's not all about you. Jen is fucking crying her eyes out right now because Jesse is gone, and that breaks my heart. This has been brutal on her. Do you care at all? Do you? Sorry you think Jesse sucks, but Jen actually loves her son. Sorry you got your feelings hurt, but it ain't all about you, dude. It just isn't. And then I followed that up with, sorry for getting a little emotional. In a previous email, as you know, I try to be a Vulcan and suppress emotions and use logic. It's just that I'm fiercely protective of people I love. If you want to actually talk at some point, we certainly can, but it has to be just us. Jen isn't in any condition, mentally or emotionally, to engage you in a dialogue. She loves her son very much and was counting on his help this summer for when I'm not around. So life pretty much sucks right now, but you can talk to me if you want to. And then
Shit-faced cockmaster!
wrote back, again, continuing to take zero responsibility for anything.
And we're still on June 2nd, right?
This is still June 2nd. Yep.
No, July 2nd.
I'm sorry, July
2nd.
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, July 2nd.
Shit-faced cockmaster!
Writes back, well, probably if Jen had been here, I think she would have asked me if I was upset. She was before. Seriously, all I want to know is that I'm not going to come home to a dorm room someday and have one of his friends telling me to go fuck myself. Because this was not all Jesse. His friend and Angela both told me the same things. And after finally getting it off my chest, I wonder how much of it was 3 20-somethings basically supporting their own groupthink thing. It bothered me, yes, but not having a chance to even say that it bothered me also bothered me. Basically, that was like being told, this is the way it is, and screw you, old man, get used to it. And then I replied, when I went to bed that night, you guys were hugging it out and making nice, and it looked like everything was resolved. I'm not telepathic. I didn't read your mind and figure out that you were still mad. It's not going to happen again. Jesse might come to visit his mother, and on a night that you're at Brothers, but otherwise it's unlikely you'll have to see him or his friend ever again. As for Angela, I can't help you there. And then this was weird.
Shit-faced cockmaster!
Writes back, did Jen just call me? I was in the bathroom. Tried to call back, but no answer. I don't know what that was about. And I said, nope, wasn't her. And then, let's see. And then I said, so that was actually it for July 2nd. So then we get into July 3rd, and we will get another one of
Shit-faced cockmaster!
long emails that I'll be able to do a dramatic reading for, but just a couple more quick things. Let's see. I said on July 3rd, tomorrow morning I'll get some boxes, and Jen and I will get the rest of Jesse's stuff out of here. Sorry for the clutter. Jen wants to be the one to pack up his stuff, and she hasn't been up to doing it yet, and I'm trying to navigate her through this as carefully as possible. Thanks for being patient about some of his stuff still being here. So again, kind of kissing his ass a little bit with the thanks for being patient, even though he was being a dick.
Douche.
Yes. And then he wrote back, dude, seriously, if he had just said that he didn't mean those statements, I would have been all right with him staying. Curious why no one was able to do that myself now. Doesn't make any sense.
Even though it friggin' happened that friggin' night.
Right. Unless that's legitimately the way he feels. If that's the case, then I know for a fact that many other people my age and older find those statements to be repulsive. And in most stereotype that generation because of attitudes like that. Again, things seem to be resolved that night. So what this proves to us here is, though, there was no resolution. Even if we had managed to find some way to smooth things over, eventually it would have just gotten bad again because
it's not a matter of if, it was a matter of when.
Right, because it was resolved. It was resolved that night, and everyone went to bed happy. But then he just keeps dragging it on and on. So then I wrote back, I've got to prep for my show at 11 p.m., but all I can say is, once again, that when I went to bed that night, everyone seemed to be fine and happy. Then a few days later, I get an email from you saying you're looking for a new place. Jesse got very upset, felt like he was ruining his mother's living situation, and packed up and left. It is what it is. I'm not Jesse and can't speak for him. Now all I'm trying to do is keep Jen sane while also hopefully keeping things peaceful and calm in the apartment. I really don't know what else to say. And I was feeling pretty helpless at that point because it was like, I don't know how to make this guy understand. I don't know how to calm him down. You were trying to balance
way too many things all at the same time. And it was a tremendous amount of stress.
Oh, I was feeling it too.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Toxic things in your life are not good for you.
Right. No. Let's see. So here's one of
Shit-faced cockmaster.
his long emails. So I guess this will be the dramatic reading for the day.
And this is on July. What's the date on this one?
This was all July 3rd. Actually, we'll have.
So we're still in this very small window of time.
Yeah, actually, we'll finish out July 3rd with this thread, and then next episode will be July 4th. So I'll read this, and then we'll read a couple more things too from that day, just to finish out that day. Okay. Now this is when
Shit-faced cockmaster
starts showing his paranoia again, because he's an extremely paranoid person. This is what he writes back to me while I'm on the air doing my show. Well, myself, I am just wondering about people's intentions at this point. I have said many times that if Jesse just said that he really didn't believe what he said concerning those comments, by the way, there another person here that concurred with those statements and was repeatedly displayed those exact sentiments. I asked if I see a half-naked person in my house at 3 a.m. that they don't treat me like a ghost, and I have very good reasons for asking that. When I was 23, I was roommates with my BF Tim. We were not BFs at the time. We barely knew each other. I assume he means best friend. And he was having a tough divorce and was bringing prostitutes home quite often. But I worked about 90 hours per week back then managing Luigi's. One night that same thing happened to me, with a female walking through the house half naked. What we woke up to in the morning was my PlayStation and $200 was missing. Tim had lost a TV, video cameras, and tons of other stuff. At first he blamed me. Then we discovered that both back doors had been unlocked while she was going to the bathroom. As far as manners go and such, that's another one that'll keep coming up. Well, when I was 22, I paid for and took out a lease and paid the first month's rent for me and my old high school friend, who I wasn't aware had become a drug addict. He didn't actually move in until after a month after I'd made all the arrangements and was supposed to pay me the other half of the security and never did. And when he did move in, he brought 2 other people with him who lived on my couch, paid nothing. He also paid nothing, contributed nothing in the way of cleaning or such, had guests over constantly, and after 3 months, on my birthday, when I asked him to start paying rent and asked him about the people who made it impossible for me to even watch my own TV when I wanted, he said, okay. Then an hour later, sucker punched me coming out of the bathroom and nearly killed me. Not kidding you. He repeatedly kicking me with steel boots, as in as an ex-semi-pro kickboxer who had done 6 trips of acid and smoked crack all day long. I only found after that he was doing that stuff. But this was not the drugs that was the cause of it, was a general disrespect towards me and how I felt about things. After that happened, I vowed I would never allow anyone to use me that way again. By the way, a year later, the same guy I moved in with beat and stole cancer meds from a cancer patient and got 1 year in prison. Nice guy for sure. None of us know each other that well, so respect is and should be important. In fact, you all know my background way, way more than I know any of yours. Interesting. That same guy now was living a pretty comfortable life for a while after he slipped on a roof at work, basically an insurance scam, collected SSDI and a big insurance settlement, the insurance he wasted on drugs and such, by the way, and all of that stuff led to a permanent rift between him and me and several other of his high school friends. Everyone took sides and such. I really did not want this to go down the way it did. You can believe me or not, but at the end of the day, I've been through way too much in my life to feel like I am being trivialized by people half my age and have to wonder when I'm going to be told by one of them to go fuck myself. That is a very interesting email for a couple of reasons. First of all, he told me that same story when we eventually, finally ended up having what I thought was a productive and positive face-to-face conversation, believe it or not. And you'll hear more about that later in the story when we get there. We're not far from there now. He told me that same story about, these people who basically occupied his home for 3 months, didn't pay any rent. Then on his birthday, he comes home. They're having a big party. His friend sucker punches him, kicks the shit out of him. He ends up in the hospital. A bunch of stuff gets stolen. All this stuff. I wonder how much of that actually happened. And I wonder if our experience with
shit-faced cockmaster
is right now being told to his friends. I mean, I'm sure he's telling them, he's casting us in the worst possible light. But I wonder if he's turning it into something it's not.
Agreed.
Like, I wonder if he's telling his friends that I beat the shit out of him coming out of the bathroom or something and stole his stuff.
It seems to be a track record with him. And this is something that we can only see now in hindsight.
Yeah.
That these comments that he's making throughout these insane emails are very telling. Mm-hmm. Either that or he really does have the shittiest luck in the world because, Yeah.
And
it's shittier than even mine.
And guess what? Well, I got to say, too, by the way, if you let people live in your home for 3 months without paying rent, then you're just a fool. Idiot. You're a rube. You're not the victim there. You're just being stupid. So that's very interesting. And then there's this comment in there because in present day emails, which we'll get to eventually, now he's talking about you being on SSDI, which you're not.
No, I'm on long-term private disability insurance.
But it's interesting that he mentions
that a lot of us, most people who work for a living, buy short-term or long-term disability to protect themselves. You get accidental death and dismemberment, life insurance, all those things you set up.
Right.
So yeah, I had all those things set up, and thankfully when I got cancer, who knew I would actually be one of those people that would need to use their long-term private disability insurance.
Right. But then he's mentioning that, like his ex-friend there, talking about him collecting SSDI. I wonder if the guy really does or ever did collect SSDI, or if
shit-faced cockmaster.
Or even if he did, is he in a situation where he has to? Because in some states, when you're on long-term private disability, they have the right to force you to apply for Social Security disability insurance.
So they don't have to keep paying you.
Right. And because, the theory is that, you've been paying into that insurance since the day you started working, which in my case, which is the age of 13. But for everybody, it varies. And in certain states, that's a requirement. So even if his friend was collecting SSDI, it may not have been a choice. It may have been, I have to.
Right. Well, I've always felt, too, that there's...
shit-faced cockmaster!
Does a lot of... And, you know, you don't have to know anything about psychology to understand this. This is just basic stuff. He's projecting. He's been projecting onto us his past experiences.
Or his past perceived experiences.
Right.
We really don't know what's truth and what's not, or what's extreme exaggeration.
Right.
Which is evident in the emails to us in our own situation.
Yeah.
To be able to see the extremes.
Because you'll hear later in the series, he starts saying some very, very paranoid sounding things to us.
And weird.
Yeah, and weird.
Very weird.
And he seems to be getting worried about us doing things to him that we would never do. Like just crazy stuff, like violently assaulting him or something. Very strange.
Wanting that to occur. Actually, to the point where one of my law enforcement friends actually recommended that I bring the emails to the local PD out of concern.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It gets
really weird.
It gets really weird and crazy as this goes on. So to that email, I just responded,
"Shit-faced cockmaster."
If you want to continue to vent to me, you can. It's fine. I don't mind. But you need to understand one thing. While Jen and I aren't actually married, I consider her and Jesse to be my family. So if your intention is to try to get me to side with you against my girlfriend's own son, I'm sorry, but obviously I can't do that. I'm sorry that things went down the way they did. Too, but if you're waiting for me to write back and say, you're right, that Jesse kid's kind of a douche, I'm sorry, man, it ain't going to happen. I'm sorry that you felt disrespected. I truly am. But I've grown to love Jesse as though he was my own son. Again, I don't mind you venting to me if you want to send me more emails, as long as Jen is never copied on them. But I hope that you can also understand where I'm coming from and the spot that I'm in. Jen is a wonderful person and is having a brutally hard time right now. Maybe you don't agree. Maybe you think she must be secretly awful to have spawned such an apparently awful kid. But I don't want you to think that I don't care about how you feel. I'm a nice person, so I care about everyone's feels, sometimes to my own detriment. But my first priority is Jen, and I hope you can understand that. So, you know, again, that's me trying to reason with him.
Well, that's a consistent thing that you fail at, and it's not your failing. You're attempting to use logic with somebody who has no ability to use logic themselves.
Yeah. You can't reason with a crazy person.
You can't.
So then he writes back a couple things, shorter things that I'll read, and then we'll finish up this episode with this. He writes back, I definitely understand that. I am not asking you to side one way or the other, but again, this wasn't just Jesse expressing sentiments that. When I ask others, by the way, I basically mean fuck what you think mentality. At the end of the day, he was also a guest, by the way. To even express those sentiments to me and others was inappropriate. If you guys are going to move, there is little I can do about it. But those sentiments, sorry, I take issue with. If a 40-year-old told me the same thing, I actually would have been even less accommodating from hearing them. I wouldn't have thought about them for 4 days. It's a very, very bad thing to tell someone that you do not respect social conventions of any kind. And to every person I spoke about, they all commented, that's their attitude these days. They are all entitled and feel they are owed something. And for the sake of the future of society, I hope that that's not true. But whatever. Fact is, you have told me you can't see my viewpoint. So if you wish to move, then so be it. Because that too shows that you have little respect about how I felt about that. I seriously don't know what else to offer other than that. I felt disrespected and trivialized, and no one is even willing to acknowledge that how I feel is the least bit important to them. So if you wish to move, then no offense, but I feel it is impossible to even worry over it. So that's that email, where basically after I've told him repeatedly,
shit-faced cockmaster!
I understand your side, and I care about how you feel, and I do see your side. I've told him that over and over and over again, and then he writes back and saying, well, obviously you don't care about my side of it or my feelings. It's like...
yeah, it kind of leads you to wonder, like, did he ever read any of the emails you actually sent him?
Maybe he wasn't even reading them.
Maybe he was just, like, assuming what was there and not reading them.
No, he must have read them because he opens that one by saying, I definitely understand that, and I'm not asking you to take one side or the other.
But then he goes into this whole diatribe, and by the end of it, he's totally forgotten that moments ago he just read an email from you going, I recognize how you feel.
Yeah.
And this is how I feel.
Right.
You know, all right, great. You know, we're adults, let's move on.
Yeah. And then he, and then of course this is a short one from him following up on that. That being said, his comments were a step shy of telling me to go fuck myself. He said I don't have to respect you as a house guest, or even as an older, more experienced person, or even show manners, because those ideas are outdated and silly. So if he had told me to go fuck myself in those words, then I have to wonder if you or Jen would have said anything. So no offense, if you feel like moving, then fine. My feelings are just as important as anyone else's in this matter. And I feel disrespected and trivialized all around. And I'm supposed to ignore that? Sorry, but I can't and I won't.
Again, totally dismissing anything
Right.
of reality and stuck in this never-ending... I swear he lives in like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It's this never-ending loop of self-pity, everything, narcissistic, paranoid lunacy.
And then here's another one. I think this is the last one from that day. This one's also short. What hurt me even more about those sentiments was that I too had come to think a lot of Jesse. When he said those things to me, it was basically him saying that he didn't return any of it, that he just tolerated me because his mother lived here. And when Angela said them, it was even more hurtful to me. So at the end of the day, if all of you want to move, that's fine with me at this point, because at the end of the day, I have to look out for the way I feel about myself. I struggle with depression all the time, and struggle with all my own self-worth and such. I am sure you think I am cocky and confident and such. But I, too, have my own battles and my own demons, and am being treated with less than important by people half my age is not good for me. Yeah, we'll...
And again, just more of the same circle of lunacy that continues.
So, well, then we'll finish with this.
At the end of the day.
Because I just wrote back to him and I said, whether you believe this or not, Jesse thought very highly of you. He really enjoyed the late night conversations and specifically spoke fondly of the night you guys basically stayed up all night debating about politics. As for you and your depression, I understand better than you think. I myself suffer from some very bad depression and anxiety, and I know that you have an issue because you once confided in me that you're bipolar. I've never thought you were cocky or anything like that. Jen and I have always thought that you're a sensitive soul and have been consistently amazed at the lengths you've gone to make the place home. And again, kind of kissing his ass there, but I did genuinely mean everything I said there, you know, and by the way, he did once tell me that he was bipolar. Just as the friend that we referenced in a previous episode who messaged me and said, yeah, this guy's bipolar, I recognize it.
Shit-faced cockmaster!
Himself once told me that he is bipolar. I specifically remember him mentioning it on one of our trips to Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart or whatever. And then the next time it came up in conversation, he denied ever saying that. And he was like, oh, you must have been thinking of my friend Tim. But I know he said it. I specifically remember I didn't imagine it and I didn't misunderstand.
Well, you also don't suffer from mush brain.
Right. But the moment he said it to me, that set off a red flag in my head. Because I've dealt with enough bipolar people to know. You know, Mel is allegedly, little Mel, bipolar. That girl I dated, Nicole, who I mentioned in a previous episode, was bipolar. And no offense, I'm not trying to stigmatize mental illness or whatever, but I don't want bipolar people in my life, to be quite honest with you. Because they
well, those that choose to not seek treatment,
right? That's what I mean.
And take
yeah,
medications and things that,
right.
that enable them to be able to be productive.
George
in
Lambert.
Society.
George Lambert told me a joke once. Why doesn't a vampire invite someone who's bipolar over for dinner? Professional courtesy. So we'll leave with that. We'll pick up the next day with July 4th, and we have another plot twist with the next set of emails. There is, in fact, what appears at the time to be a thawing of the ice. and perhaps a détente and even a summit between
Shit-faced cockmaster!
and myself. That begins to transpire. Now, don't get any ideas. That doesn't mean this all ends happy.
Well,
But for a moment, there is a glimmer of hope that shows up in our next episode. A glimmer of hope. So we'll finish off this episode with that. Remember, if you have a roommate, ask yourself, does he like to send emails? Good
does
night.
he? Night.
IPMNation.com.